Good morning, good afternoon, or good night from whenever and wherever you are watching us. I am Cameron Scandal. That is Steven Treffler. And we are the sound. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks. It is still real bitterly cold outside. I need sunlight sooner than later, Steve. I can't take this walking around in the dark and the cold anymore.
No, I'm getting the golf itch right now. I need the warm weather so that I can get out there and hate myself even more. So
the golf bug bit me maybe a week ago, maybe a little bit sooner. I also have been very much in the mood to get out on the golf course. But regardless, got a great show for you today. A lot of NBA coverage, a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of good information. So folks, without further ado, let's get right into it. We start off today's show talking about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, the team that seemed to be like the center of conversation for the last 4 years and all of a sudden died off. Their last NBA title now 4 years ago. You would have thought they would have had one more at least by now. Steve, after what you've seen this season from not only the Bucks, but the rest of the league as well, do you think that they can return and eventually win the NBA Finals this season?
Man, unfortunately, I just don't think they can. And there's two main reasons why I feel that. The first main reason is I'm starting to have a lot of questions about Giannis's ability to stay healthy when his team needs him the most, right? So obviously in the 2023 finals, they played against the Heat in the first round. I'm pretty sure the Bucks were the favorite to go to the finals that year. And Giannis unfortunately got hurt. He had a lower back contusion. And like a couple games before the playoffs started, and he was able to play 3 games of that series. They just couldn't get past the Heat. Jimmy was doing Jimmy things. Even this year, Giannis has been hurt. The Bucks have played 53 games. He's only been available for 41 of them. He's missed 12 games. In those 12 games that he's missed, the Bucks are 6-6. Giannis's ability, actually, in fact, he's hurt currently. So he's about to return this week, I believe, but he's been out for 5 or 6 games right now. But I think the bigger thing for me with Giannis is more about the Bucks' depth and their roster, right? So currently the Bucks starting 5 is Dame at the 1, Andre Jackson Jr., a rookie at the 2, Teron Prince at the 3, Giannis at the 4, Brook Lopez at the 5, and Kyle Kuzma, I believe, is their 6th man. And I question if that can compete with the Celtics, the Knicks, or the Cavs. Cam, they're 1-11 against the top 3 teams currently in each conference. And in those 11 losses, they're losing by an average of 14.5 games. I know it's the regular season. I know the playoffs are different, but Chris Middleton at one point in time in Giannis's most successful seasons, we were having legitimate conversations of who's the Batman in the playoffs during some of his most successful postseason runs. Dame hasn't been out of the first round since 2019. So I just don't see there being, with Giannis's questions of his health and with the Bucks losing some of their key pieces and needing to rely on role players now to step up against these teams that they're just not showing much success against.
I think the only legitimate threat to Milwaukee right now in the East is Boston. At one point in time, I would have also said Miami, but with Jimmy gone, not the case anymore. And I also think Giannis is the best playoff player in the entire conference. We started off the segment. I was saying how it's been, 4 years since they have came back to the finals, and I want to kind of talk about what has gone through that history. So obviously 21, they win the championship. 2022, they go in a 7-game series against Boston. Giannis had 4 games with 30+, and Chris Middleton was hurt kind of that entire series. Still went 7 games. Could have went either way, even with those injuries. 2023 and 2024, Giannis is hurt. Dame is hurt. They don't have all the manpower that they should. And in 23, I mean, Giannis, he played 2.5 games in the series against Miami. He just wasn't available. What you said is a factor, but it seems that has gotten better since then. They have played Boston, who I think is the only threat 3 times. They're 1-2 in those series, granted, but in the one series they won, it was 4-1, and the 2 they lost both went 7 games. And Dame, you had mentioned, hadn't been out of the first round in quite some time. While very true, last season with Milwaukee kind of felt like it wasn't the same Dame, and there were questions of, if he was even going to stay, and didn't seem like he wanted to be there. He's putting up his best numbers this season since he's been in Milwaukee. And while Chris Middleton, an important piece of the Bucks, championship run and whatnot, and we did have the conversations of who's the Batman or who is the Robin. Hindsight 2020, maybe that conversation was a bit forced, I would say. I think we were sort of prisoners of the moment of watching Chris Middleton hit these game winners and come up big in these playoff spots. But it was never a question of who is the real leader, I guess, in a sense. So I like Milwaukee versus Boston. I still don't trust New York with Jalen Brunson and Towns. Now, while I like this team better than last year, I still wouldn't pick them over Boston just straight up. I just think Giannis is, like I said, with being the best playoff performer, the only one that is able to go to that extra gear or that extra space. I don't think New York has anyone like that. I'm still not buying Cleveland. I've seen Donovan Mitchell do stuff like this in Utah, and we've seen how that has gone. And that's, I think, it in the East. That is really going to be a challenge for Milwaukee. So if they get the right seeding, Giannis stays healthy, as you mentioned, I don't know who is going to realistically stop them.
Out of the top 3 teams, they're 0-8 against the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Knicks. They're 0-8 against those teams this season. And in those games, 3 of those have been 20-point blowouts. And they've been getting blown out by the Knicks in both games they've played against the Bucks this season. And it hasn't looked close. Man, it's so hard when you talk about playoff performers, because at some point in time, when does the fact that they've lost so many important pieces on that team start to factor in with their ability to keep up with the up-and-coming youth that is in the East, right? Because even on the Cavs, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley this season look absolutely terrific, dude. And they're beating teams by an average of 11 points. And that's second best in the league. The Bucks are beating teams by an average of 1.7 points this season. The Bucks just need to I just need to see Giannis to do it. That's just it at this point. I haven't seen it in a while, so he just needs to prove me wrong.
He's also career high in points, 32, 12, and 6 on 61% shooting. So Giannis is having a season. Yeah. And this is forgotten about, I think, because the concept to me is a joke. The Bucks won the NBA Cup this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they won that against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are beating teams by 12 points, I think. Yes, and I think while I don't take the NBA Cup seriously and what does it mean, it is, I think, meaningful to the players, and I think the players take it real seriously.
Yeah.
And for last year, when the Lakers won it and LeBron was the MVP, it was very evident that it was a different, it was not the regular season, that they almost treated it like a mini playoff of sorts. The Bucks did that as well this season with the NBA Cup. So I think with LeBron and the Lakers showing that it matters and it means something, LeBron then went on in the playoffs to average 28, 7, and 9. Giannis in the NBA Cup, the Bucks, it kind of means something to them. They win it against what people are saying are the number one contender in the West in Oklahoma City. I think that just there proves that when you get to the right circumstances and you get to when things quote unquote matter, teams like the Bucks and players like Giannis, that's when that what separates the goods from the greats, that's when that kicks in. Like I said, I just don't know if anyone else, Tatum maybe in the East has that gear or can find that place.
Are you concerned with his ability to stay healthy? Because even now, with missing significant time this season, at some point in time, this is 3 years in a row that he's missed significant time due to injury.
He does have to stay healthy. But, it is not to have a jab at it. It's not like Embiid, where it is literally every single season, or it is like he's out for months at a time, or season-ending surgery. Yes, he does need to stay healthy. That is a major point to fix. But injuries are a concern, yes, but it is not a big enough concern that obviously I am deterred from backing them to win.
Like, we have a saying at work that goes like this: 1 year is an anomaly, 2 years is a pattern, 3 years is a habit. So this season, really, he needs to. It's now or never for him, I believe. I believe his window, like, this is a very pivotal moment for him, that he either needs to show us he can return to that 2021 Giannis and be there for his team and carry them into a deep playoff run. I need to see the Bucks go to the conference finals at worst this season.
Again, I don't know how they don't even get there. But just like we were saying there last week with the Lakers, it's really all. I mean, they can have the perfect seeding that they don't touch a Cleveland or a New York until that conference finals. Which again, I would still, especially the deeper we go in the playoffs, I would confidently take Milwaukee to win either one of those series. After not participating in any All-Star events, Anthony Edwards came out and said that he does not want to be the face of the league, saying, quote, "I'm capable of being that guy, but I don't want to be that guy." Steve, with LeBron and Steph at the tail ends of their careers, who do you think can take the mantle of being the next face of the NBA?
Yeah, honestly, to me, it's Luka. It has to be him, dude. He's the only logical answer when you look at around the league at the other guys who could potentially be the face of the league, right? And that's based on the hype that he came into the league with and the heights that he's already reached. Like, it can't be Jokic. He treats the NBA like a 9 to 5. It's not. He doesn't take it serious. He would rather be sitting at the track with his ponies than he would be on an NBA court in any given day. I don't believe it can be Giannis, because Milwaukee isn't the type of market that can fabricate a face of the league-esque guy. Like, that's not the market to be in for a guy who should be face of the league, in my opinion. The last guy who I think could potentially challenge Luka for this is Jason Tatum, based on the fact that he's on the Celtics, which is the second most popular franchise and successful franchise in NBA history, and the fact that he's won the finals now, the fact that he's finally gotten over the hump. But even with Jason Tatum, there's something that lacks the charisma, the personality that Luka has. And now especially with Luka going to a LA market and being that heir apparent, I just feel like, to me, the only logical conclusion to this answer is Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I wrote some names down as well, and the only one you didn't say that I'm not surprised about is Wemby.
Yeah, no.
Only because of his, like, I feel like everyone kind of knows who he is because of his freakish, obviously, size and way he plays and all that stuff. But I agree. I think it could only be Luka. I have said multiple times at one point in time, back in the Scandal Sports Hour days, you asked me this question. My answer was Anthony Davis, who I think a lot of people forget was a top 5 player, the best two-way player in the league, back in the late 2010s. But you had mentioned that Tatum doesn't have the charisma or the personality, which is true. He's quiet. He doesn't, say a whole lot. He's not, even like on the court, he's not loud. He's not like smack talking. He's not like, which is fine. He'll be that way, but then you just can't be the face of the league. All those other guys, all those other reasons are valid. And Luka is on the freaking LA Lakers, like a top 3 most popular franchise in sports, just in sports, in the entire world. There is no greater place to be than the city of stars for LA and the Lakers. Also, clear, like, the face of the league will be LeBron until he retires. With Luka then learning from LeBron, like you had said, LeBron retires. Everyone in their brother is going to be tuning in to the Lakers next season to see how is Luka going to carry forward the tradition. So just already getting the extra eyes from being with LeBron now, and then seeing what the post-LeBron era is going to be like. Plus, I think for as terrible as the Dallas trade was, it made Luka and Anthony Davis by association infamous. Like, I don't think, like, even when Luka is towards retirement, this will still be talked about. This will still be remembered that Dallas, Luka, even he was like, I'm a Texan. Like, he had been really embracing the American culture and wanted to be you think about where Americans are pumped out of the factory. Look no further than Texas. Like that's about as USA as it gets, and he was all for that. So I mean, going from that to this, and like Luka's a guy's guy. Like he's out there drinking a bunch of beer. He's shit talking on the court. He don't take it from nobody, and he plays like. One of the reasons I don't think Jokic could be the face of the league is because he's not fun to watch unless you're a Jokic fan or you're really like a student of the game. He's not fun to watch. Luka, for as slow as he plays, is still incredibly entertaining to sit and be like, how is this guy doing this stuff? But some of the comments he gives on interviews and like his whole, like, remember the Luka and Devin Booker rivalry saga, like stuff like that. None of these other guys have not the ability, but they're just not doing it. It's not in their wheelhouse. So, I mean, I think with all of those things, like you said, it can be nobody else besides Luka. Plus, Luka coming in as a rookie and immediately building up this resume of potentially top 25, top 20, 15, whatever all time, already having the spotlight, plus what I mentioned with LeBron in LA and stuff, with the extra spotlight, the brightest star is going to shine.
Honestly, one thing that you said that I hadn't really thought about before was who Luka is off the court and how much he has embraced, like when he was at the Mavs and in Dallas, how much he embraced that Texas culture. But that leads me to another point that I thought of, and that brings the international community that he's brought to the NBA.
Yep.
Luka being the face of the NBA, correct me if I'm wrong, this would probably be the first international player ever to be the face of the league.
Off the top of my head, probably.
You have guys coming into the league from across the pond, and Luka being that face just helps grow the global market of the NBA even further. We talked about the NBA having a viewership issue in shows past. What better way to fix that viewership issue than to have a guy who is internationally, globally famous and people know who he is across the globe as the face of your league? And you also have to want that title. Like that, there's an anvil on your back when you get that title, and there is a microscope over you. So Anthony Edwards, him coming out and saying that is nothing against him. I don't think of Anthony Edwards any differently for not wanting to be the face because of the added responsibility, pressure, stress that comes with that.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting to see how Luka handles that as well, because he's another one of those guys that he hasn't done anything wrong in his career. His career is pristine.
That first press conference with LA, and even him, like Luke coming off the plane, and even his, like, I can only imagine his initial reaction when he got traded. Utmost professionalism. Not a single blemish reaction, not a single Dallas can suck it. I hate them now. It's going to be all against them. I guarantee you, if Anthony Edwards were to be that guy, he'd be up at the Lakers, like up on the stage, sitting like this, sunglasses on. He'd have his hat, and he'd be like, "Yep, we're going to show Dallas. I'm going to get them. They're going to know what they've lost." I'm like, and again, I can appreciate that attitude to an extent. All sports needs that. Time and place. It is just, like I said, there is a tasteful way to go about that kind of stuff, and Luka just walks that fine line perfectly.
I agree.
Our third and final topic of the day, it is everyone's favorite segment, Soundbite. Please forget what Soundbite is. It is where Steve and I react to different interviews, post-game clips. If something happens that we want to take a listen to, we listen. This past Sunday, NBA All-Star Weekend, Draymond Green sounded off against the new format, saying he hates it and it is unfair to NBA All-Stars in leagues past. So let's take a listen to Draymond Green and hear what he has to say.
Some team that no one wants to see.
Oh, man.
I had to work so hard to play on Sunday night of All-Star Weekend. And because ratings are down, because the game's bad, we're bringing in Rising Stars. That's not a fix. I never played in the Rising Stars game. My first 2 years, I didn't touch that game. and these guys get to touch the All-Star floor on Sunday night, like when the floor is the floor. You know, in America, the president has Air Force One, right?
Yeah.
They have several of those planes. It's only Air Force One if the president's on it. That's the All-Star floor. You have the court, you have the events. It's a nice looking court. When the All-Stars are on the court, now it's the All-Star court. Those guys did not make the All-Star team. To be playing in the All-Star game and you did not make the All-Star team is absurd.
So there you have it. That was Draymond Green talking about the new All-Star format and what he thinks of the Rising Stars being involved. Hard to tell how he feels. I don't know. I couldn't really get a gauge. Steve, your reaction to Draymond and your thoughts on the All-Star game format.
I mean, first and foremost, I'll be honest, I am not a Draymond Green fan. So everyone that's about to listen to this, take that into consideration. All right. I think Draymond's, I think Draymond's just being petty, to be quite frank with you. Like, the league's attempting to find new ways to make the All-Star weekend more watchable, more engaging for fans, right? The All-Star game has not meant what it once meant in nearly 2 freaking decades, man. Like, it is coming up on, like, I remember watching AI dunking on guys and Kobe crossing people, and there used to be some tenacity. There was pride you were playing for when you played in the All-Star game. They've been disrespecting the All-Star game for quite some time, in my opinion, and it hasn't been the same. So Draymond saying that that's disrespectful to guys in leagues past, yeah, so is how these guys have been playing for the last few seasons. So I don't want to hear him talking about making a team of guys to try something new, playing on the same court, comparing Air Force One and the legitimacy of the president being on it to the All-Star court. Like, stop it. This isn't something that's earth-moving, earth-shattering. It doesn't mean that it's taking away from the guys who made the All-Star team, because they still get that title. The title of All-Star is way more meaningful than playing on a court as an All-Star. We don't look back at, 30 years later at their legacy and say, oh man, that was dumb because those guys played on the same court at the same night. Like, it's just dumb.
I agree that Draymond sounds petty and jealous. I mean, you can tell right off the rip when he first starts talking, like, I never was in the Rising Stars, or I had to work hard to be on Sunday night. And I respect all that. And I also agree that the All-Star game has been on the downward spiral for quite some time. I mean, it hasn't been the traditional East versus West for the last, 5-ish years?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years, something like that. And I say all that to say this. Draymond Green is right.
What did you say? What the fuck did you just say?
Draymond Green actually makes some pretty good points. The problem with the All-Star game, or the reason that the NBA has changed the format, is to get more people watching, to get the competition up, and to get it back to what it used to be. I think this format was the breaking point. I think that if you want to get back to the old All-Star game, like how it used to feel, then bring back the old All-Star game. And I know that the league was having issues with the competitiveness and the viewership when it was still the old format. But after all this time, and after all these changes, and after all the negative feedback that has come year after year, like, it seems like every single year the All-Star feedback gets worse. So if you are hearing that there is no, correct way to fix it, and that you have to resort to doing gimmicks of, like, nobody watches the celebrity game. Nobody cares about the celebrity game. And just like the All-Star game getting worse, the celebrity game, the longer it goes on, the less noteworthy celebrities play and participate in that game. So it's like you're adding, with the Rising Stars, it's like you're adding a celebrity game type of vibe to the All-Star game, because, like, nobody wants to watch those guys play. And like Draymond said, the actual All-Star should beat those guys in their sleep. So how that is increasing views, I have no idea. The All-Star game, like we say a lot of what stuff matters and doesn't matter when we're talking about legacies. Obviously, number of All-Stars is a factor. All-Star game MVP depends who you ask. But the point of it is that we have set this criteria. We have this precedent of that the All-Star game, like Draymond said, Sunday night is the All-Star game. You know that Sunday is for all the fun fan stuff. Friday's everything extra. Sunday is the premier event. What the NBA has done recently makes Sunday feel more like a Saturday or a Friday. And I do agree with Draymond that the Sunday game should be sacred in a sense of we are professional athletes in the pinnacle of our sport. We have been now known as the best of the best. The All-Star game was known as like the greatest pickup game of all time because it was bringing all those guys together to show you the best basketball. It has gotten away from that and gone to more who can give you the best show. And while I appreciate that from a viewership entertainment standpoint, that's what the players, or at least for me, like the sanctity of things like the All-Star game. And like as soon as you start diminishing the value of things and taking away the shine, no one's going to take it seriously either. Nobody gives a shit about the Pro Bowl. Nobody ever did. Nobody ever will. Because the Pro Bowl isn't an All-Star game. The Pro Bowl is kind of like one big NBA Saturday. But the All-Star game is the All-Star game. It is when you can actually watch what it is meant to be. And I think the NBA at one point in time had the best standards of what an All-Star weekend in sports should be like. So if they don't care, the players don't care, you take away the specialness, the uniqueness, the why it matters-ness of the All-Star game, and this is what you're going to get. You're an All-Star. You earned it. Play a good game. Hold it high. Like, you want to have those multiple runs and multiple years of your career of being an NBA All-Star. So if nobody cares, then why should players care?
I do agree that having these guys on the court the same night as the All-Stars, it is not tasteful. It's distasteful. It doesn't sit right. But I don't think it is tarnishing, like he said. What I'm trying to say is it's not just this year that they have not treated the All-Star game right. Regardless of having these guys on the court the same night, the gimmick of playing to Kobe's jersey number and the first to that wins the game, right? Or the last 5 minutes of the game are the most important or something like they have been doing things for years now that to me have been much more, what the heck is this? Yes, right. Adding these guys to the same court on the same night is weird. And it was a bad idea. But to me, it doesn't disrespect those other guys because they still have the title of All-Star. The idea itself is bad. It's just he sounds petty because he's acting like the NBA hasn't been disrespecting this game for the last 5-6 years. This might be the pinnacle of poor choice making, but it, like you said at the beginning, the straw that broke the camel's back, this is just the icing on the cake for people. But it's not, in the grand scheme of things, he's acting as if this is brand new. It's just not.
But it is brand new because while the NBA has, yes, done different formats over the last few years, this is not the first time they've done something new. It's the first time Sunday has been tainted. It's like a line you don't cross.
It's a bad tradition.
It is a bad tradition. Correct. That's the word I put. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely distasteful.
And while I think that Draymond, like I said, started off initially from a place of petty and jealousness, I still think his points and the things he's saying, and like we know this from making takes, like it can come from multiple places. Like you can have a good take that starts as a feeling, and then as you work it, your brain also starts to tie things together. Which, to be honest, I think as Draymond went on, he went from more gut reaction, this sucks for me, to why it sucks for us. And that's going to do it for us today, guys. Another successful show in the books. Who would have thought we'd be ending with agreeing with Draymond Green? What a turn of events for the sound as time has gone on. Just want to let you guys know also before we head out for the day, next week, bit of a change. Steve, unfortunately, will not be here with us. Got some scheduling conflicts. I will still be here to give you guys the best sports information I possibly can. Steve will return the week after. And folks, with that, you need to always remember, if you are ever in need of intelligent and cogent sports analysis, we will always have you covered. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks. We hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Stay warm, stay safe, take care. We'll see you next time.
Listen to the sound. I listen to the sound.